Karen didn't mean to cause trouble. She just wanted to help. She believed racism could be solved with hugs and maybe a good Instagram caption. She'd read all the right books. She'd posted the black square. She even corrected her uncle at Thanksgiving. Twice. Karen was the kind of woman who called herself spiritually mixed. She meditated to Erykah Badu, wore waist beads from Amazon, and believed her soul was 14% Nigerian because she felt it in her hips. But then came the retreat. A flyer at her yoga studio said, "Heal the culture, cleanse the soul, understand the pain." Karen clutched her reusable water bottle. Yes, this was it. This was her chance to really make a difference. So she packed her bags. Sage, Palo Santo, 4 types of incense, and her favorite Kent print kimono, which she bought from Etsy on sale. If you're enjoying this story, please comment where and when you're listening to this story. Let's know how far this story travels. 3 hours later, her white Prius pulled up to an old farmhouse surrounded by trees and incense smoke. She whispered, "This feels ancestral." The GPS said, "You have arrived." And oh, had she. A black woman in a flowing robe greeted her. Her name was Mahogany. Her voice sounded like jazz and judgment. "You're early," Mahogany said, handing Karen a cup. "Drink. It's ancestral tea. It opens your third eye." Karen smiled. "My third eye's been ready." And she chugged it, like a freshman at a frat party. That was her first mistake. The tea hit fast. She sat down on a pillow. People were humming, chanting. Someone started burning sage. Another whispered something about generational pain. Karen was ready to receive, but her stomach wasn't. Her vision blurred. The room tilted. And before she could say, "I don't feel so," she passed out, face first into her affirmation journal, until she opened her eyes. The ceiling fan was spinning. The light was harsh. Her body felt heavy. She tried to sit up, but something felt off. Actually, everything felt off. Her arms were thicker, her hands bigger. She stood up and caught her reflection in the mirror and dropped the nearest lamp, because looking back at her was a black man with a full beard and chest hair that clearly didn't come from Whole Foods. Karen screamed, but the scream didn't sound like her. It was deeper, rougher, and definitely male. Then came the second surprise. The door swung open. 6 black men rushed in. One of them shouted, "Yo, who the hell is this dude in Tyrone's bed?" Karen blinked. I'm Karen." They all froze. One of them mumbled, "This man say he Karen." Another yelled, "Nah, call Mahogany. This retreat got demons." Mahogany appeared in the doorway, sipping a smoothie like she'd seen it all before. She looked at Karen, now Tyrone, and sighed. Tea hit harder than usual. Karen, or Tyrone, rather, stared. "What did you put in that tea?" Mahogany smirked. Perspective. Karen spent the next 3 hours trying not to scream. She checked her phone. It wouldn't unlock. Wrong face. She checked her body. Still black. She screamed into a pillow. Sounded like Barry White. She cried, and it wasn't her soft yoga tears. These were real. By sunset, she sat on the front porch, wearing gym shorts, no makeup, and sandals that barely fit. Her Etsy kimono was gone. So was her whiteness. And in its place, a reality she wasn't ready for. "You'll stay this way," Mahogany said, "until you learn what we've lived." Karen blinked. "Learn what?" Mahogany just smiled. "Life. With no filter." That night, Karen slept in Tyrone's bed, on a mattress too firm, with sheets that didn't smell like lavender. And when she woke up, the beard was still there. So was the skin. So was the truth. Karen came to heal the culture. But the culture had something else in mind. She came to speak. But now, she had to listen. And if you think the tea was wild, wait until she walks into a job interview as a 6 feet 2 inches black man with no resume, no ID, and no clue how rent works on this side of the world. Backhand index pointing right, medium skin on. This is Black Untold Stories. If you're still with us, comment, "Karen, don't panic." And don't forget to subscribe, because the next chapter, let's just say, Tyrone's about to learn what a rejection email really feels like. Karen used to believe the universe had her back. She trusted the vibes. She trusted the moon phases. She trusted her horoscope, which told her to be bold this month. But the stars didn't predict this. Because now, Karen was Tyrone. Black, bearded, and very unemployed. The first problem? Face ID wouldn't unlock her iPhone. Karen stared at it, whispering, "It's me, baby. Open up." But the phone just blinked back. Like, "Try again, stranger." The second problem? Google Maps was no help either. Every address she knew led to a life that no longer belonged to her. Her yoga studio? Hi, we're at capacity. Her favorite cafe? Charged her for extra oat milk and made her wait outside. Her own suburban home? Karen knocked on the door. Her husband opened and immediately reached for his phone. "Can I help you?" he asked, eyes wide. Karen smiled awkwardly. "It's me. Karen, your wife." He blinked, then slammed the door. Through the peephole, she heard him whisper to the kids, "Go to the panic room. A tall black man just said he's your mom." Karen used to be greeted with free samples and coupons. Now, she got followed around by store clerks and locked doors. So she walked. Tyrone's wallet was missing. His phone was dead. And it turns out being a black man in a hoodie with no ID is not exactly a safe look in most neighborhoods. She passed 3 police cars, didn't breathe once, even clutched her own wallet that she didn't have. Karen was beginning to understand something new. Not just racism, but tension, a kind that doesn't leave your shoulders, even when you're just walking. But Karen was also hungry. And when a black woman named Miss Loretta outside a corner store handed her a bag of chips and said, "You look like you need this," Karen almost cried. For the first time in her life, she took charity with no pride attached. She didn't say "thank you so much" in that chirpy white lady voice. She just said, "Thank you." Quiet, real. And Miss Loretta just nodded. You gonna be all right." That night, Karen slept in a friend's cousin's apartment on a couch that smelled like fried catfish and weed. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for coconut water. She just stared at the ceiling and whispered, "I'm in hell." And the cousin yelled from the next room, "You're in Decatur, bruh." The next day was job hunt day. Karen, still in Tyrone's body, borrowed some too tight dress pants and headed to the local job center. She walked in smiling, confident, saying, "Hi. I'm here for anything administrative, nonprofit, or possibly media-related." The lady at the desk looked her up and down. "Resume?" Karen paused. It's in the cloud." "Email?" Karen stammered. "It's KarenHealsTheWorld@gmail. "You sure that's your email?" Karen blinked. "No." She applied for everything. Fast food, call centers, delivery. One place said, "We're looking for someone with 5 years experience making smoothies." Karen, defeated, replied, "I've made a lot of smoothies." The guy behind the counter laughed. "Nah, fam. Real smoothies. With pressure. With trauma." She nodded slowly. "Right. Smoothies with trauma. Got it." After her 10th rejection, she sat on a bench. Her feet hurt. Her back ached. She hadn't eaten anything warm in 24 hours. An older man sat next to her. He had kind eyes, gray in his beard, and sneakers with duct tape. He looked over and said, "You new here?" Karen nodded. "First time being black?" Karen blinked. "Excuse me?" He smiled. "Don't worry. You'll adjust." And in that moment, it hit her. Privilege wasn't just a word. It was a jacket, and hers had been taken. Now she was outside, and it was cold. Later that evening, Karen walked into the welfare office. The woman at the counter didn't look up. "Take a number." Karen stood silently. "Take a number." Karen picked up a plastic card. It read 92. They were currently on 12. She sat next to a baby crying, a man on the phone yelling about rent, a woman reading a Bible. And for once, Karen didn't say a word. She just waited. For hours. When she finally reached the front, she whispered, "I don't have a job. I don't have ID. And I'm new." The woman didn't flinch. "Name?" Karen opened her mouth, then paused. "Tyrone," she said, softly, honestly. The woman clicked her keyboard. "All right, Tyrone. Sit tight. We'll call you." Karen used to go to the Apple store when she was stressed. Now she went to government buildings. She used to drink kombucha. Now she drank from the water fountain and prayed it was clean. She used to say we're all one race, the human race. Now, she was just trying to be seen as human. If you're still here, comment. From oat milk to EBT, Karen's on a journey. Hit subscribe, because next time, she's getting pulled over. And no, the police don't want to see her book club recommendations. It was just a Thursday. Nothing fancy. No protests. No news headlines. Just a regular day in America. And that's what made it dangerous. Karen, still Tyrone, was dressed for her third job interview. Black button-up, borrowed khakis, hair freshly picked, beard trimmed with nail scissors. She looked presentable, which is code for non-threatening, a skill she didn't know she needed. Her friend Deshaun had let her borrow his car, a beat-up Honda with no AC and a prayer for brakes. "Keep it chill," he said. "Drive slow. Don't give him a reason." Karen laughed, then realized he wasn't joking. The drive was smooth. She practiced interview answers out loud. "I'm a self-starter. I thrive under pressure. No, I've never been to jail." Then the lights came on. Blue, red, blinding. Her heart stopped. Her hands froze. A voice rang out from behind. "Pull over to the right." Now, Karen used to see police as helpers. Now they were heat. Loud, flashing heat. She pulled over, rolled down the window. 2 inches, not 3. A white officer stepped up, hand on his hip, other hand on his belt. Real slow, real heavy. License and registration. Karen's mouth went dry. I don't have ID. "Excuse me, this isn't my car. I'm borrowing it. From a friend. For an interview. I'm not. I didn't do anything." The officer leaned closer. "Step out of the vehicle." Karen stepped out. Slowly. Hands visible. Voice shaky. She remembered a podcast once said, "Keep your hands where they can see them." Now, she was living that advice. Except this wasn't a podcast. This was pavement. And panic. A second officer pulled up. Black. Silent. Watching. Karen turned to him. "Can you tell him I'm not dangerous?" The black officer blinked. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared like he'd seen this scene too many times. The white cop spoke again. "Why are you driving without ID?" Karen whispered. "It's a long story. Try me." And right then, out of nowhere, a voice shouted, "Tyrone, what you doing with the police?" 3 older black women stood across the street. Hair bonnets. Robes. No fear. "That's Mahogany's cousin's friend's nephew," one of them said. "He ain't no threat." The officer hesitated. Just long enough. The aunties crossed their arms. Phones out. Recording. Shaking their heads. "Harassing folks are gonna work," one muttered. Sometimes community looks like 3 women in slippers with iPhones. And that day, they were angels. The white officer backed off. Mumbled something about a warning. Walked away. Karen stood still. Tears in her eyes. Hands still raised. "You okay?" one of the aunties asked. Karen nodded. "You want breakfast?" Karen opened her mouth. "Yes." Karen didn't cry in that moment. Because of fear. She cried because she finally felt it. That this is the feeling black people carry every time they get behind the wheel. The feeling that one small move, one wrong word, one moment of looking out of place could be your last. They sat in the auntie's kitchen. Biscuits, eggs, grits with too much butter. Karen was quiet. The women talked around her. Stories of brothers, sons, husbands. Stopped, questioned, hurt. And now this Tyrone was just the latest. One of them asked, "You ever been scared just from being seen?" Karen nodded. "I am now." And in that moment, she wasn't Karen the white woman. She wasn't Tyrone the black man. She was just a person, realizing the world doesn't always care about that. By the time she left, the sky was overcast. She didn't make it to the interview, didn't get the job, didn't even care, because now she knew something they couldn't teach at the retreat, couldn't write in a book, couldn't fit in an Instagram post. Sometimes being black isn't about pain. It's about enduring pain, while still finding room to laugh, to love, to make grits. Karen got pulled over. But what really stopped her was realizing her privilege had cruise control this whole time. Karen thought she'd stay for a weekend, that she'd sip some tea, post a few pictures, and go home feeling cultured. Instead, she'd been Tyrone for 3 weeks. And at this point, Karen was starting to forget what kombucha tasted like. Her yoga mat was now futon. Her affirmations had become job applications, and the only crystals she carried were in the cheap deodorant she could afford from Dollar General. But something else had changed, too. Karen wasn't trying to save anybody anymore. She wasn't handing out flyers, or starting petitions, or crying over documentaries. She was just listening, observing, learning. And in that stillness, something real started to bloom. That Sunday, Mahogany called her. "Put on something clean," she said. "We're going to church." Karen blinked. "Oh, like the spiritual kind?" "Nah, the black kind." The church was in a brick building with no air conditioning, pews that creaked louder than the choir, and an usher named Sister Gladys who didn't believe in personal space. Karen sat down beside Mahogany, sweating, overwhelmed, and definitely underdressed. The choir started singing. Voices lifted like thunder. Then the preacher walked up. No microphone needed. He had a voice like Moses if Moses had grown up in Detroit. "You ever been seen so clearly that it scared you?" he asked. Karen blinked. "You ever been so humbled you forgot who you were before the pain?" She nodded. "You ever wanted to run back to comfort, but comfort didn't want you no more?" Now she was crying. In public. Loudly. And no one even blinked. Because Black Church knows how to hold people when they fall apart. After the service, Mahogany leaned in. "Ready to go back?" Karen wiped her face. "Go back where?" "To your body. Your name. Your life." Karen paused. "Do I have to?" Mahogany smiled. "You've learned. That's what matters." "So, this was all a lesson?" Mahogany nodded. "No, this was reality. We just let you borrow it for a while." The next morning, Karen woke up in her own bed. Back in her own skin. Back in her quiet house. Back in her world, where oat milk is trendy and struggle is optional. But something felt empty. She walked past her bookshelf, past the framed Black Lives Matter poster, past her Juneteenth vibes only hoodie. She stood in the mirror. No beard, no deep voice, no brown skin. But inside, something had stayed. Karen didn't go back to the retreat. She didn't post a viral thread about what she learned. She did something stranger. She shut up. She listened more. Spoke less. Gave without filming it. She went to city council meetings. She stopped correcting Black people on how to protest. She even stopped saying, "I don't see color," because now she saw it, and she respected it. 1 year later, Karen walked into a neighborhood she once avoided. Knocked on a door. An older Black man answered. "Yes." "Hi," she smiled. "You don't know me, but I used to be Tyrone." He paused, then laughed. "Girl, sit down and tell me everything." Karen tried to heal the culture, but the culture healed her. She thought allyship meant reading books. But real allyship? It's showing up, shutting up, and staying, even when it's not trending. Now, she no longer said, "I want to help." She said, "What do you need?" She no longer cried when called out. She said, "Thank you." She no longer asked for credit, because she finally understood some stories ain't hers to center. Karen woke up Black. Then she woke up aware. Not perfect, not a hero, but finally human, on a deeper level. And that's the beginning of something worth building. Backhand index pointing right medium skin on. This was Black Untold Stories. If you've laughed, learned, or looked at the world a little differently after this, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to get it without getting offended. And drop a comment. Karen came back different, because truth is, we don't need saviors. We need people willing to wake up.